It's time to do the lucky spins for Bertrand. This is the second time that he's showed up, and I'm still bullish that eventually I will be using him. So I'm going to spin him in this video. You can see exactly how much I get for the max 200 spins, and I'll give you a few updates on how my season's going so far. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Call of Dragons. And your boy Bertrand over here has to be one of the most controversial heroes that I've seen to date. People are kind of excited about him, and then, I don't know, maybe they were a little disappointed he didn't have area of effect damage. And now I'm hearing people are excited about him again, because people who actually know what they're talking about are starting to test him and are they're getting some pretty good results. So what is the reality for Bertrand? I'm going to be honest with you. Until I myself am doing the testing to confirm that the levels are the same, the stars are the same, there's no weirdness going on with the nature of the test and the pets that are associated, if any pets are even used at all, I'm going to be really skeptical of test results that I see. With that said, in general, for open field, what I do like to see is area of effect damage, which he doesn't have, debuffs, which he doesn't have, and also I really like to see march speed, which he doesn't have. In addition, the fourth skill over here makes it so that when he is the target, he loses 15% attack and defense. So he needs to not be directly targeted for 3 seconds to gain this buff, which, by the way, I fought against him in Roots of War. Lots of people were using him, unsurprisingly. And every single player who used him as the primary, boom, I target them first. So you can use him as a primary hero, but you're going to get yourself rightfully targeted. So I would probably drop him in as the secondary. So if I were putting Bertrand into my lineup today, and I don't plan to use him today, but I'll talk about that, I would drop him in as a secondary to probably Lilia or Velen. I would need to read their kits a little bit more closely, and I would need to play around with the nature of compound interest and the possibility of things like, I don't know, the awakening skill on Velen triggering compound interest. Last I heard, I think Snowblind isn't triggering compound interest. And a lot of what you're trying to do on this hero is trigger the compound interest. So I'd probably be using some combination, again, of Lilia, Velen, Bertrand, and depending on how I'm feeling, I could either weave in Thea for something a little more tanky. I could try to use Hosk, although I'm kind of lukewarm on that. Or maybe even, honestly, I would pull up the Epic Waldir, man. Maybe I bring Waldir back into the rotation. But if you wanted to use, 4 mages, I mean, Bertrand is a part of that lineup for sure. 2 marches of mages, 4 total. Yeah, I would totally have Bertrand in that lineup. Now, personally, I'm going a different route this season, which I covered in a separate video that I've put on the channel. Card will be in the end screen if you want to see, hey, what is your boy Chisgule using in this season? But that's kind of enough talking about this wheel. Let's get to spinning it. These are dragon tickets. I've purchased these using the Pluto Mall. I've covered this extensively. I'll have a card up in the top. If you want to know how the Pluto Mall works, you get extra value for the money that you're spending in the form of these tickets. Bada boom. And just to give a little more clarity on the Pluto Mall, you basically buy tickets that you exchange for their exact value, but the extra value you get is that you get typically in the realm of 10% extra tickets on top of what you already bought. So I don't know. I mean, it's so high value. If you've not done this before, I'm sure I have somewhere in here a mail that's hey, thanks for your Pluto Mall purchase. Here it is. So in this particular purchase that I did, I bought a max purchase of a bundle that you can buy at the $100 tier one time. So that's $5, $10, $20, $50 and $100 tickets. So I bought 4 of those 185 bundles, and here's the extra tickets that it gave me on top. So 4 of the $3 tickets, 4 of the $5 tickets, and 4 of the $10 tickets. All right. It seems like a little bit, but if you're whaling in this game, I mean, hey, it all adds up, all right? So let's go and do these spins and see how we do. Now, I have 112 or 113 Bertrand tokens that I haven't applied yet, so we'll see what the grand total is at the end of all of this, and we'll get an approximation of how many total Bertrand tokens I got. So I'm going to continue to spin him for now. But once I can switch to someone else, maybe I'll switch to someone else, to be determined. My game plan this season is 2 infantry, 2 marksmen, and 1 mage march. And I'm just going to use Lily Velen. And that just makes my life really easy. And because in this particular season, that's T1, the stamina cap has been elevated to 150. And there's even something I could take that would increase my stamina regen if I wanted. I feel like doubling down on a small number of my very best heroes has got to be the way to go. And so that's what my current game plan is. There's the full pull on the Bertrand. Let's go. Even if I wasn't using Bertrand, which I do plan to eventually, you still get a lot of value from spinning this wheel, like a shocking amount of value. So if you're a spender in the game, you always want to create a situation where you can be getting some amount of value from spinning this wheel, which brings me to, so what heroes am I maxing? Well, we're about to approach the generation 3 of heroes in this game. This hero pairing, Bertrand and Tohar, are the last G2s. So we should be getting G3s, which should bring a slightly higher power level, I assume. And I would also assume that means my G2s are coming to an sort of end of life for their value. In other words, the universal tokens I have now that are tied to Generation 2 heroes, like those can only take me so far. Once all my Generation 2 heroes are maxed, I mean, I guess I could go back to Generation 1 and like the gold key heroes, right? But I think the heroes that I'm most interested in maxing from G2 actually is going to be Ferondil. I got to finish off, what is his name? Gorash. And then everything from there. Oh, and I need to do Theodore, right? And dude, Theodore is still a great garrison. So I need to get that done. I don't know what I'm doing with Tohar to garrison. Ooh, dude, there's another full Bertrand. So the other reason that I'm delaying using Bertrand is that he's probably going to show up again next season, maybe, for the wheel. Maybe. I actually don't know how that's going to work when we get to Generation 3. Are we still in the choice wheel going to have some Generation 2s? We are. Yeah, we are. So I'll have the option to spin for him more later and just accumulate more of his tokens over time rather than rushing them with my universals. I think that's going to be a fine choice. At the end of the day, like, although mages are very important, I think especially as a player who's spending a significant amount of money in the game, for me to run double infantry, I think just brings a lot more to my team than if I sit there in the back and have yet another march kind of doing damage. If I can soak a lot of damage with some amazing infantry, I think that's my game plan. Another full pull on the Bertrand. Dude, let's freaking go. So anyways, now that we've kind of been doing some merit farming in our season, we're getting ready for the third zone to open up. We still are not going to have any conflict in our season due to the positioning of the folks that we're fighting against. And I'm pretty sure they specifically moved around to try to like catch us or something weird. There's no fighting until the final zones, weirdly enough. So like the way we, I think, had envisioned and designed it, there would have been fighting throughout the season. The reality instead, based on the actions of our opponents, is that there will only be fighting at the very tail end of the season, which honestly kind of works out for me right now. So I also play Rise of Kingdoms, which is made by the same, I think, family of companies that makes Call of Dragons. And in Rise of Kingdoms, I'm fighting arguably the two strongest kingdoms in the game. So I am very busy right now. Very, very busy. In fact, recently I got wrongfully accused of like manipulating the game state in the official Call of Dragons Discord server. And it's like, bro, like, don't you guys have things better to do than to like blame me for things I'm completely unrelated to? Like, what are you guys doing? I don't know, man. People are just really weird. They're really weird. But I'm actually just a regular human who enjoys playing this game, which got me thinking. The differences between Call of Dragons and Rise of Kingdoms, there are things I really like a lot about Call of Dragons. The artifact system, I think, is actually way better than the equipment system in Rise of Kingdoms. The pet system here, I think, is way better than the formation and armament system in Rise of Kingdoms. Like, the collection aspects of Call of Dragons are actually really, really good. Especially in my opinion, and it all depends on what you like. But for me personally, compared to Rise of Kingdoms, I actually like it a lot. I also really like the stamina in this game. I think it requires you to be more skillful, which is really good. You just can't brute force this game with resources and speed ups in the same way that you could in Rise of Kingdoms. Now, there's obviously a lot of value to having more troops and resources and speed ups, etc. Right? Let's be real. But it's just a different realm in this game. So there's actually a lot of things I really like about this game. That said, in Call of Dragons, we don't really have a lot of rally and garrison situations, which is, depending on how you look at it, either a huge pro or a bit of a con. The thing that I really like about it in this game is that actually over time you can accumulate troops. And I think that over time the need to have more troops is also going to go kind of up and up and up. But I'm enjoying accumulating troops rather than like basically killing all of them in order to be able to migrate players in to play with us. Now, that does bring up an interesting question. Like, dude, so if everybody is mostly accumulating troops season over season, I'm not saying you won't lose some fighting. I know I did last season. Even though we didn't have as much fighting last season, there still was rallying going on, and you lose troops, right? But if you're overall accumulating troops season over season, like, people's power is just going to go up and up and up and up, which I think is a part of the reason they added the policy this season that makes it so that you can take some dead troops to get some extra damage. The amount of dead troops you take, I think, for the amount of extra damage you take is, I think, not worth it. Especially because in this game, dead troops are dead troops. In Rise of Kingdoms, you get half your troops back at the end of the season, which is pretty nice. There's another Bertrand. Let's go. Another thing that's kind of interesting about, and I didn't really mean to make a Rise of Kingdoms versus Call of Dragons video, but another thing that's kind of interesting about Call of Dragons is that the seasons are a lot longer. And I have very mixed feelings about that. I actually think I prefer the shorter seasons in Rise of Kingdoms, but also it's like a very different style of game. Like, it's hard to explain. You actually have a meaningful place to be when you're not fighting other kingdoms in Rise of Kingdoms, whereas here you really don't. Like, there is a neutral land that you can go to, but I don't know. It's not the same as like your kingdom that you've built up with your team and arranged in a certain way, and you manage the territory, et cetera, et cetera. So let's claim all these rewards. Bertrand tokens, G2 tokens, more Bertrand tokens, more G2 tokens, and there are the Bertrand tokens. Boom. Love to see it. So this brings us to the grand total of how many Bertrand tokens did I get? And that number is over here. It was about 112, I think. So I got about 132. Which is about average. It's funny, I get a pretty consistent amount of tokens when I do this. I think the most I've gotten was like 155 maybe to 160 tokens. So once I figure out the way I want to distribute these skills onto Bertrand, I think I want to skip the second skill. I think I do. Like, take him to level 30, then start applying and take them to 4 stars. Then start applying the skill ups and hope that they don't land over here on compound interest. I still haven't decided yet. I'm not really in a rush. So like, it's fine. I'll take my time. Okay. And if you're interested in seeing some Bertrand and Tohar testing, I've got to be able to find someone who's got that in our server. So consider subscribing to the channel. I'll probably put a video out about that soon-ish. My game plan, like I was saying, is probably to go and use my universals on Ferondale. So you can see here I've got 869 of these G2 tokens. So I can dump them into Ferondale. I could dump them into Gorash once I'm ready to finish him. I'm currently getting him from the daily special offer, and I'm also getting him from my VIP every day. And then I'm going to finish up Theodore. Once I've finished off them, the remaining G2 tokens I get go into the Bertrand and Tohar combination. I assume I will eventually max Tohar. Like, I think that's a thing I will eventually do. So the game plan would be to like just keep spinning wheels for Bertrand and then do daily special offers for Tohar. Eventually, I'll have the 2 of them. And when I'm ready to be fielding lots of mages, because I decide, like, hey, I have the troops for it, or I decide, hey, this season I think that's what matters, or if I think that, garrisoning with the thick cow over here is the way to go, he's so fun-loving, this little guy, this little cow. I don't know, man. Anyways, the art in this game is really something, the giant cow. Anyways, at this point, I think I'm starting to ramble. If you enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, subscribe to the channel. We will have fighting. That fighting, like I said, is coming up in, I think technically we'll get a little bit of fighting. Like there's a pass opening where we can get invaded for a couple days. And then a few days later, we have a pass opening into the final zone with the dragon. And I probably will stream some amount of that fighting. Like, I think that's going to be a thing. It's going to depend a little bit on the timing and how hectic my life is, whether or not I stream it or just enjoy it. But I would like to stream this game more, to be honest. Anyways, if you want to see a little bit more information about pets, I have a video, I think, about every relevant pet at this point. So I'll have a card in the end screen. Also, if you would like a pet tier list, definitely let me know. I recently made a hero tier list. You can check the card in the end screen for that. I also have an artifact tier list. Lots of resources available to you, all right? Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.